Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 53. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Jenny Kovacs from Gift Wish. Jenny is the queen of being seen, and she helps business owners to boost their credibility and profile. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, that was a lovely introduction.
Oh, good. I love your queen of being seen. I think that's just so perfect.
Thank you.
So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and about how you got into business?
Okay, so to be honest, many years ago, I worked corporately. I was a manager and I had a certain amount of freedom. One of the things I'd always really had a deep desire for was to start my own business. But in all honesty, I was a little bit scared. It was the how-tos and the how to do it. So after a couple of nudges from various sources in the form of being made redundant, I decided that it was time for me to start my business, but I got scared again. I went and had another job. I got another job as a training manager. Mm-hmm. And it was at that time that, unfortunately, in the environment around me, I saw how unhappy people were. And I remember thinking, I can either just stay and then continue to feel unhappy, or I can do something about it. What was my desire? What was the thing that I want to do? And I made a decision, and a lot of what I talk about is actually making a decision. But I made a decision that I was going to start my own business and I was going to get the support of people around me. And in all honesty, it kind of felt at the time like it happened by accident, circumstances and different things like that. And then I just went, you know what, I'm going to go for it. That's how I started in business.
Excellent. And how have things evolved since you started? How did you get to where you are today with your business?
It's funny because when I started my business, I knew that I was really great with presentations. I knew I was great with training and communications and all that kind of stuff. But what I didn't realise, and this is where the visibility stuff almost comes back to front, what I didn't realise was back then, and even further back, I already had this system created to help people to stand out and to be seen, and to help people to go out there in a bigger way. Mm-hmm. So what I actually did was I just decided, well, you know, I'm just going to do what I do best at this moment in time, and I decided to train and coach, and then I heard about niching. And decided that I should really, and I was told actually, I should niche down to one thing. So I thought, I love presentation, so maybe I'll help with that. What I actually found, and my business journey has been, compared to some, a relatively short one. I go into my 5th year of business this year. Mm-hmm. But what I found was that every time I tried to tie it to one thing, that I was still doing visibility. I was still helping people to stand out and be seen in a way that felt comfortable to them. So I went from training and coaching to presentations to, well, maybe it's not about presentations, it's about speaking, maybe it's about being authentic. And then had this light bulb moment that actually what happens is I help people to be seen.
I love that. So did you find that you kept attracting clients that really struggled to be seen and really felt invisible, or how did they express this to you? Because I think a lot of people, I don't know whether they don't know how to express it, but I'm not sure if they would think, oh, you know, I'm having visibility problems.
No, this is a thing. I often joke that people don't wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night and go, oh my gosh, I need to be visible. They often, what actually happened was, and I noticed this even more when I talked about speaking, it was like people would come to me and say, I need help with speaking. But what I actually worked with them on was a visibility piece. So, for example, I had a client who came and approached me. We worked privately, and she said, I'm really nervous about speaking and I really want to give a talk. I really want to be able to share what I do, but I'm too scared. Mm-hmm. And it's really strange. The thing about visibility that I see with people was that I understood that she was nervous and everything else, but it's like I could see straight through what was actually stopping her. So it's almost like going to the doctor. People say I've got a headache and you give them a painkiller. But actually what I was doing was saying, I'm going to give you a painkiller, but I can see what's causing the headache. So almost like silently treating the piece underneath, to stop them from getting the headache in the first place. So a lot of people were coming to me with one thing, that thing, but I was also helping them with something else.
You were going to the core of the issue.
Yeah, and it was only when I sat down and did an exercise actually designed for my clients, myself, that I realised, actually, I'm helping them in this speaking piece, but I'm also helping them to do this, to do that. And sometimes I was helping them to find new clients, or in fact, have new clients find them. I was helping them to be able to sell some of their products for much more than they'd even imagined or dreamed of. And I found myself saying, well, hold on a second. That wasn't meant to happen. I'm glad it did, but that wasn't supposed to happen. So that's why I sat and started to look at what I was doing and how I was actually helping people.
I love that. Now, how's visibility been for you in life? Do you feel like that's something that you've ever struggled with, or has that always been something that came easy to you?
It's interesting because it will come as no surprise to anybody that knows me or has met me and worked with me that even as a child, I was very talkative. I was never shy. I was always happy to talk to people and to interact with people. But there was an element of me that almost was a bit quiet, was a bit shy. And I guess if I can demonstrate this by sharing a story.
Of course.
This is something that, even though this happened when I was 7, I only really became consciously aware of why I'm so passionate about helping people to be seen. So when I was about 7, I was in a class with a teacher at school, and we were talking about the Keats poem, Seasons of Mist and Mellow Fruitfulness. And I loved poetry. I liked writing it, I liked learning about it, I liked understanding it. And what happened was, and I still don't quite know why, but this teacher thought that I was struggling with the subject. And as most teachers do, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't struggling. Now, her way was in moving me out of the class.
Oh.
Now, as a 7-year-old, one of the things that I'd learned while being talkative was, how do you challenge an adult that says, but you're struggling? How do you say, but I'm not? So I did what every 7-year-old does, and I kind of took it. I knew, and I was really confused as to why the teacher thought I was struggling when I loved poetry so much, and I was the one that asked lots of questions and really engaged. Mm-hmm. And it was only a few months ago that I was speaking to a really fantastic woman that I was doing some copywriting with. And she said to me, when you think about it, that experience demonstrated why you're so passionate about visibility and being seen and being heard and being noticed. Because at the tender age of 7, I wasn't seen, I wasn't heard, I wasn't noticed. So that's how it affected me. But what it actually did for me was it made me kind of say to myself, never again do I want anybody that is in my presence or being taught by me or being coached by me to ever feel like they're being ignored, overlooked, not being seen and not being heard.
Oh, I love that.
And it was like, one of those realizations that when it hits you, it almost makes you cry because you think, oh my gosh, this is why it's so important to me. Conversely, because I am known as the Queen of Being Seen, I help people to be seen. I have to almost demonstrate myself to people that I'm capable of being visible, and it allows them and gives them permission to be visible too. So there are a lot of things that I do using my own system that help me to be really seen, but that actually empowers people and lets them know it's okay for them to be seen too.
That's excellent. Now, how would you define visibility and being seen?
Okay, so here's what it's not about. Visibility and being seen is not about shouting the loudest, wearing the brightest colours, stepping on people's heads and dismissing others' ideas, slating them or anything like that. Visibility is almost about you shining your light in your way that suits your business, your personality, and your life, so that people that you really love working with see you, see who you really are, and gravitate towards you. That, to me, is true visibility. Anytime that you're doing something that doesn't feel right, it's because it's not right. So it's about shining your light in a way that's comfortable. And I have clients who are introverts who are very visible. I've got clients that are extroverts that are visible. All it means is that you're visible in a different way, and the way that is most suited to you, your personality and who you are.
I love that, because it's not just a cookie cutter approach. And I love what you said about how you have introverted clients who are visible as well. Because I think so many people who are introverts and also in business, they feel just like they don't know what to do to become more visible, because it seems like a lot of the information in the books and the just stuff that's out there about being visible is really geared toward the people who naturally find it easy.
And this is the thing, there's so many ways we can be visible. For anybody listening, please write these down, because it's up to how you are and who you are. So it could be that you're the sort of person that likes to go out and speak to big groups or on stages. It could be that you're the sort of person that likes your voice to be heard on audio. It could be that you're the sort of person that likes to show up on video. Or it could be that you're the person that writes white papers and blogs and articles and likes to be visible that way, or a combination of any of those. So, for example, one of my clients is really into creating music, very, very introverted, likes to sit and create this music literally by themselves. However, they have learnt to let themselves shine through their music and let their music do the talking. And my belief is that people aren't broken, they don't need fixing. All they need is to know how. And the best way that I can show anybody how is to show them through who they are.
And I think that's also something that a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of times we don't know who we are, because maybe we've been in a job for so many years where we've had to do things that just weren't quite natural to us. And so we've kind of forced ourselves to be something that we're not.
And if I'm really honest, the juiciest piece of what I do in my work that makes me able to do this 24 hours a day without breathing, sleeping, eating, well, maybe to breathe, is the piece that I talk about when I ask, who are you and who are you really? Because you're right, circumstances, environments, jobs, families, all sorts of things, and normally from a well-meaning place, sometimes make us form ourselves into something we think we should be. Let me give you an example. For many people that have either worked corporately or worked in a job and then transition into the self-employment route, they have this thing about being professional. And what that usually does is it knocks pieces off them. So they become this professional person in a way in which they think they should be, not in how they are. So they show up in life as being professional, and they start speaking like this all of a sudden. And, they start wearing clothes that they wouldn't normally wear, or they start attracting people or working with people that they wouldn't normally wish to work with because they think they're being quote unquote professional.
Yes.
So part of the juiciness of working with people and finding out who they really are is just asking them a series of questions. And I invite, your listeners to ask themselves this question now. Who are you when you're with your family? Who are you when you're at work? Who are you when you're relaxing on holiday? Or who are you when you're active on holiday? When you start to ask yourself these deep questions, who inspires you? There's a reason that certain people inspire you. It's normally because there's a part of them in you. When you start to go through these layers and really understand who you are, you can show that to the world. You can shine that in your light to the world. And that's when you start to notice that the people you work with, the companies, the groups, all of a sudden are so gorgeous and so lovely that you don't want to stop. And that's what I love about the Who Are You piece and finding out who you really are.
I think that's so important. That's such a foundation in any business, is to get clear on who you are so that you can express that to your ideal clients or to people who maybe aren't your ideal clients so that they can recognize that.
Exactly. And just as important to recognize who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with as who's great to work with you and who isn't great to work with you. Really, really important.
So, Jenny, what would you say are your top tips on how to raise your visibility or how to be seen?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to very succinctly take you through my system, which is created of 5 steps. And if you imagine within those steps, there's something else. So if you're listening and you've got pen and paper in front of you, if you write down the acronym or the word VIBES with an S on, so V for Victor, I for India, B for Bravo, E for Echo, and S for Sierra, there are actually 5 steps. So the first step, the V, is about visibility. Sometimes it's around video and sometimes it's around your vibe. Okay. So your vibe is your flow. It's the thing that you do seemingly easily. And visibility, we start with that step because in order for you to get really visible, it's really great to know how you want to be seen, how you want to show up, which elements of you want to show up. So it's almost like doing an audit on your own visibility. So that's the first part of it. Now, the second part is around making an impact. So how do you make an impact? Well, there's an old saying around, I think it was Morabian that did some research, that only 7% of the way in which we show up are the words that we use. Sometimes it's the body language and sometimes it's the tone. So when you make an impact, how do you get remembered when you're either in a room face-to-face networking or talking about your business or maybe speaking? Or how do you make an impact when you are writing about what you do? How do you show your kudos? How do you show your expertise almost? How do you show your credibility? So the I is really about impact, and I often describe that as being iconic. And being iconic is being remembered, so that even after you've left a room or a website or a Facebook page or anything like that, that people are saying, oh, wow, if you want to know about getting out there on social media, Holly's the person to go to. And when people have really attuned this very, very well, what actually happens is even people that haven't met you will still recommend you because your ripples will spread far and wide. So the third step is the B. And I call that the bio, or how you biographically speak about yourself. Now, until you know who you are, it's hard to know how to speak about yourself and your business. And quite often, if you can biographically describe what you do and your business, instead of the nuts and bolts way, but in terms of the results that you get for people, the way in which what you do transforms them, whether you're an author, whether you're a coach, whether you're an electrician, whether you're the host of a bed and breakfast, once you get clear on how to speak about you and what you do, this piece almost like everything opens up. And for this reason, this is one of the pieces that I actually start with when I'm working with people in groups or privately, because it's like the leverage point that enables them to be able to know what they're going to blog about, what they're going to write videos about, how they're going to really show themselves as visible and credible. The fourth step is the E. Sorry, were you going to ask me?
I was, but no, go on.
That's fine. I'm able to answer something on the B there.
No, I was just going to say, I think that so many people don't take the time to create a bio that's really, really just punchy and reflective of exactly who they are.
I agree. And what happens is when that doesn't happen, every time you want to join a meetup group or go out and network or go and speak or write a video, you're like recreating the same piece over and over again. And even worse, it's all in your head almost, and all in your energy, in your space, that you're kind of clogging it up with how do I do this again? How do I do this again? And I think that actually disempowers people to go out there and be really credible.
Yes.
Completely agree. So the fourth step then goes on to the E for energy. Now, there's various different ways in which you can look at this, but from an energetic space, if you've got lots of stuff going around in your head, it's really hard to create new stuff. So the E part is something that I call sexy segmentation. And that's, how do you split your week up or your diary up or what you do? Now, most people come at this from a let's see what you can fit in time management point of view. I come in from a what time do you actually have? So if half of your week is taken with looking after children or doing school runs or volunteering, I teach people to cross those elements of time out of their diary and look at what they actually have. And then that way they can leverage how they get out there. Because I'm sure, like you, Holly, with the different social media platforms and specifically, that people often feel really overwhelmed by everything.
Yes.
And I just want to avoid people being overwhelmed and exhausted and burnt out. So
exactly my perspective as well.
I know, and that's why we've got such a great synergy.
Yeah.
And then finally, the final S in vibes is all around speaking. Now, this is almost like the biggest section. And honestly, if I was to go through every single element of every part of the vibe system, it would take me like days, weeks. So S is about speaking. Now, this could be a myriad of things. How do you speak about you? How do you speak about your business? How do you speak about the transformations you provide? And then you've got, how do you put a talk structure together? So when you go out to talk, whether it's for 10 minutes or an hour or half an hour about what you do, how do you almost put the word that most people resonate with is signature talk. So how do you put your signature talk together in a way that allows flexibility for whatever happens in that room to happen? Mm-hmm. When I say signature talk, I'm not mistaking that for like structured talk. Mm-hmm. This is a signature talk where you can share from your heart as you. It allows for people to ask questions and you can incorporate that. And then the other part of speaking that I find a lot of people struggle with is, well, how do you go out from being in a room with somebody and having a conversation with them to being on a telephone call with them or a Skype call or face-to-face where you're saying, okay, my services cost X amount, so can I take your credit card details? So many people find it hard to have that conversation. And underneath that, I could almost be crowned the queen of helping you with difficult conversations. If something's not serving you, if you want to ask for more information, if you're not happy with your level of customer care and service, I somehow in this journey am able to help people to articulate and actually say what they do, what they need, and find the words. So the speaking element is huge, and it covers, as I say, everything from speaking in a stage to, being able to have that conversation with a client. Now, why that's so important to me is that once you know how to articulate that area, if you want to go and type a blog, you're able to do that. If you want to create a video, you're able to do that. And most importantly, if you can master the words that are floating around inside your head, also known as your inner dialogue, if you can tame that and be able to help that work with you instead of against you, then all of a sudden you find that you can get out there and be visible in any way you want to and feel comfortable to. So that's why the S is so big. So that's the vibe system.
Yeah, I love that. And it's the second time I've heard your system, and I just think it's so powerful. And I think it's got so many details that so many people just don't take into consideration when they're trying to market their business or just be more visible in their business. It's
true. And this is one of the misconceptions about visibility that I find is what I do is almost like the glue that runs between things. So people will say, I definitely want to do some work with you. I'm just going to get my website done first. Well, what happens when you've done your website and you sit back and wait for everybody to come running along to buy your stuff or to read and to connect and contact with you? So the visibility piece to me is the glue between the social media element of this, websites or sales pages and all of that. And I often find that by the time people come to me, they've already got their presence out there in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they do this work, they go through these systems, and then it really pops open for them. And it allows them to be more effective on social media, more effective when speaking. And it's really, it's just something that it's a very strange position to be in, but it's the glue between all of the more obvious ways of being visible.
And more effective, of course, in your website and your copywriting, because if someone arrives at your website and you're describing this person that's not really you or that just doesn't quite fit, they're going to be attracted to the wrong person, or they may be turned off from something that you're not.
And this is true. And I've had it the other way where I've portrayed certain elements of my personality, and then I found myself working with people in the past that I like to call them the heart sync clients, the ones you open your calendar in your diary and you think, oh gosh, well, we've attracted that because of how we've shown up. So that's why I like to really show people how they can show up in the world so that they don't have those. And I don't have those clients anymore.
That's excellent. So how do you work with people? How do you take people through this visibility vibe system?
Well, there's various ways. So for some people, especially when they've got busy lives, they can either work through it on an online, like a home study course, which is a mixture of templates and videos and just ways in which they can go through step by step or jump straight to what they need. The other thing that I love doing is I love speaking. So I go around and I take people through very small elements of that. But there's never enough time in an hour's talk.
Of course.
And finally, the other thing that I like to do is I love workshops. So, every now and then I might put on a day or a 3-day event with the focus of you learn this piece and then we do this piece. So it gets you into action. So by the time you've left the day or the 3-day event, you've actually got things in place and already started. So you're not leaving overwhelmed and you've got a plan moving forward. So, and occasionally people say, this is all well and good, but I just want to work with you privately. I've got this childhood story or I've got this thing from my past and I don't feel comfortable sharing it. So, I'll work one-to-one with people too. Excellent.
Sounds like you've got a variety of options to appeal to everyone.
It seems so. I want to be able for them, to help them shine. So this is what people are almost asking and craving for, so I've just provided what they've needed.
And how do you help people who say have a real fear of being visible? Because I know that a lot of the clients that I work with are just fearful of being out on social media because it's so international and far-reaching. How do you work with people who are just terrified of being visible, yet they know that it's necessary for their business?
It's interesting because if you're one of those people listening to this podcast and you're saying, but I can't get out there, I'm too scared, I encourage people to look at the thing that they fear, because I don't know if you find this as well, Holly. If you stand 15 people in front of me that say, I don't want to be visible, I'm scared, when I have a conversation with each of those people, there's always something slightly different that makes them fearful. So the thing that I endeavour to do really early on is to find out what's the thing that's holding them back. Now, I don't expect them to come to me and say, I think it's because of this. I've had people that say, oh, my teacher made me stand up and read in front of the class and I've been embarrassed ever since. That is very rarely the thing that does it. So I find out really, really quickly what the actual piece is that's holding them back. And that's where we get to work. I always look for what I call the leverage point, the point that if we do something together will make the biggest difference.
Excellent. So, Jenny, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. There's so many. And this is the blessing and the curse of visibility, is that I get to work with people who think that they're not a big thing, and they are so much of a big thing. They really need to get out there. So I guess at the moment, one of the people, in fact, there's two people that have inspired my journey. So one of them I know has been talked about before is the lovely Catherine Diva. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Catherine for a couple of years now and done some crazy things like going to Ecuador, but still being able to be visible and work my business. And Catherine really uses her intuition to be able to inspire people to get their gifts out in the world. Mm-hmm. So she's one person that inspires me. And the other person who's really rocking my world at the moment is a mentor that I'm currently working with in the States called Lisa Sasevich, who seemingly teaches people how to speak to sell, but actually does a lot more than that. And one thing that I found really interesting in Lisa is that I have had the privilege to work with some really great female mentors. And then sometimes you get close up and personal, and maybe there's one message that they're conveying that isn't really them. Mm-hmm. Now, with Lisa, she really walks her talk. When the person that she is on her stage or through her programs is actually the person that she is in real life too. And I really admire and respect that, because she's got such a successful business, such a great gift, and she has inspired me beyond belief in ways that, would be another podcast to tell you.
Excellent. That's so inspiring when you find just the right person to work with. So, Jenny, where can people find you online if they want to learn a little bit more about you?
Okay, so I have a website. So my website URL is a strange one, but it's gift. So G for golf, I, F for foxtrot, T for tango, hyphen, wish, WIS for Sierra, H for hotel, .co.uk. But the best place that you can not only connect with me, but also get a taste of what the Visibility Vibes about are through my Facebook page. So I've got facebook.com/Visibility Vibes. Okay, and that will take you to my Queen of Being Seen page. Mm-hmm. I share tips and videos and all sorts on there. And also I have a YouTube channel as well. And I can never remember the exact URL for that. But if you go to my website and look at the contact me piece, you've got all of the links to me, whether it's on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook or on YouTube. And the reason that I really like to connect with people on social media is they get to see who I am, see whether they like what I do and whether I can help them. And there's loads of free stuff that I offer just to help them get started in the meantime,
Oh, that's excellent. And I think video is something that's really, really important if you really want to get visible and get out there as a solopreneur, because it gives people such a clear idea of you and your style and your energy and what you're like.
I know. And, if people look back at some of my older videos, they'll see the more starchy corporate me with my suit and my cufflinks. Ironically, some people won't do video because they're scared of that visibility. But there's so much more. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, imagine what video does. There's so many ways in which you can use it. And I look forward to seeing the people that listen to this podcast creating a video. Doesn't need to be studio ready. Just, get your tablet or your phone or smartphone of choice and just have a go at introducing yourself and saying hello. And, let me know if you do that. I'd love to see it.
I would love to see that too, because I really got into video this year and I'm trying to encourage a lot more people to do so as well, because I think it's really, really powerful.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you so much for joining us today. You have such fabulous tips on how to be visible, and I'm so excited that I finally had you on the show to share this with our listeners.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP53 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.